So, of course, every day, new manufacturers, it's IAE. Looks like we're getting Greycat today. I haven't looked at the actual page yet of this ship, or the vehicle, the truck. This is definitely going to be one of those unannounced vehicles that we went over. I think at the end of IAE next week, we'll go over my ship sheet, ship tracking, there it is, the ship tracking sheet. We will go into this at the end of IAE, and we'll go through what we have kind of ruled out as some of these unannounced vehicles and ships, because a lot of them are starting to make more sense. For instance, the one that had the cargo stuff going on, I think a few months ago in here, I think it was this one. Unannounced vehicle, experiencing some cargo mechanism issues, gray box in early September, lot 0 in October, final art in November. This is probably the Greycat Ox, the Drake Golem Ox. So we can surmise a couple of the changes that we've seen. We're not going to have a monthly report coming out at the end of the month, so we might as well just do it then. But for now, we've got a new vehicle to go over, the MDC. First, we're going to take a look at the page for this. Clear the skies and set your sights with Greycat Industrial's newest addition to its growing ground vehicle family, the threat thwarting MDC. It is so fitting for Star Citizen to have a company called Greycat Industrial. Thwarting threats. But you know what? Whatever, it's fine. This sturdy rover keeps its wheels on the ground and its aim in the air as its automated PDT, the first to grace any ground vehicle, takes on incoming ordnance that descends to ruin your day. Another functional triumph for Greycat and the ultimate ground support for your squad. Now, we never really acknowledged PDCs becoming more and more popular in this game, but this is 100% a big feature addition. A big feature addition. This is probably helping to lead the fight on AI turrets in ground locations, which for some reason have disappeared, even though they were supposed to be in 3.4.3.2. But this is also really serious. These are AI controlled turrets that can track ships, missiles, or personnel, and that can be a big deterrent if used correctly. They could straight up put these vehicles out there roaming around on moon surfaces and have us do bombing runs on them as a mission. Super simple mission. They could have these kinds of things out around outposts, driven by NPCs and shooting ships down. Now that server meshing actually allows this kind of stuff to work, and they're actually working on some interesting features like this, I think this is more exciting as a feature than it is as a vehicle. I hope they talk a little bit more about that in general at the IAE Q&A this year. So you can activate a quick and effortless slew of strikes from the driver's seat with a dash-mounted PDT control, letting you keep cover as you power through combat zones. Dude, air cover? Actual air cover? Man, it's very interesting, guys. I mean, if you are the kind of person who always gets struck out at Pyro by these people just nose-downing you, not only are these people going to not be able to nose down you much longer once control surfaces come in, whenever that happens, but now you can bring a couple trucks to help defend yourself, even if you are a solo player. And that's probably where this is aimed at. This is for those who are traveling alone, but do need some defenses, because that's been a problem for a long time. Is it good to design a vehicle around a problem that's supposed to not exist because the flight model changes and security changes and all that stuff? I don't know. It might still fit. But it's interesting to see how this kind of stuff is developing. You can set up base and let the bullets fly. The MDC's automated turret activates when you step outside, meaning you can take care of ground attacks while the PDT covers the skies. Okay. So it's 7 meters long, 5.5 meters wide. It's probably the same dimensions as the MDC we saw earlier this year. Coming in at $45 standalone. Or if you're using your own store credit, $50. Honestly, yeah, this seems like a fantastic thing to get in game. I know people are going to try and get it as the LTI token. I see you in chat. But I do think that this is a great... this is going to be actually really interesting to watch play out in the game. I wonder how much they've tested this. Let's check out the video and see what they have to say about it.
Earlier this year at Invictus, we introduced the Greycat MDC, which is the first in a family of ground vehicles from Greycat. The MDC was designed as this sort of utilitarian, all-purpose rover-style vehicle that allows two players to just bomb around the battlefield, exploring, storage on board for whatever they need, and then as well having mission storage boxes on the back. So really, it was a ground vehicle capable of doing the majority of our ground vehicle.
I like it, but I don't like the 1/8 SCU boxes. I would love if it was just two 1 SCU boxes, but I guess that wouldn't have worked with the dimensions.
Boxes on the back. So really, it was a ground vehicle capable of doing the majority of our ground vehicle roles. And today we're introducing the MDC, which is your Mobile Defense Center.
Where is this music all coming from, man? Give it to me.
The MDC is the ultimate ground support vehicle that you can take into
Oh,
battle.
nice. Bombs.
It's designed to give you that little bit extra.
They literally were like, hey, look, it stops A2 bombs.
It's designed to give you that little bit extra protection.
There's no vehicle that's better to support your team.
The first thing you're going to notice when you see the MDC is the PDT on the back, and Point Defense Turret. The PDT itself is new. It's a ballistic Gatling version of the existing bearing point defense turrets we have elsewhere in the game.
You can tell they're a new feature because the art looks good.
Obviously, being a ballistic, it has finite ammo, so this will need...
Not to say the old stuff doesn't look good. You can just tell this is like a new asset, and they put work into this because it was going to be a standardized piece of the game.
to go back to a location to reload, but the trade-off for that is that it has an increased alpha damage, so it is more useful against shielded and armored targets.
So
Wait, I'm sorry, say again?
Reload, but the trade-off for that is that it has an increased alpha damage, so it is more useful against shielded and armored targets.
Okay.
So the reason we decided to put a PDT on a ground vehicle was because when you have events like Jumptown and people are there loading their ships and getting other bits and pieces, you're very vulnerable to attack, giving them a different means to actually defend themselves, or if they're on their own.
Nah, dude, just get good. What is this? Come on, CIG, why are you holding the hands of the weak?
The PDT on the MDC is swappable. So that means you can have the missile variant, the Gatling variant, and the laser variant. The missile and the laser variant is now available in 4.4 within in-game stores.
So this is like, it's like if you got the Cyclone and just like threw an AI blade on the turret. It's a little bit of a different kind of thing, but it's an alternative if you don't have the extra person to help you out. A smaller alternative. I think the MD, whatever this series of vehicles is a little weaker than the Cyclone, just the size-wise. Actually, that might not be true. No. It's got a lot of structural support.
Driving the MDC around is very much like driving the MTC around. Its handling is almost identical. It's capable of getting to places the MTC is capable of getting, and can be carried in the same sort of vehicles as the MTC. But whilst you're driving around, the PDT is automatically engaging threats against you as a player. Whether
Dude,
that's
that is
incoming
sick.
ordnance or ships.
This is going to make for such a fun event. I want to just have an event in GII where we just get like 10 of these things driving across the open land like this. And then we get all of our folks to just drive ships overhead and try and shoot them and see what they can block and what they can't. We could have so much fun with
Whether
this,
that's
man.
incoming ordnance or ships.
What we need now is like an artillery truck. Firing artillery. Pull! They launch it. You try and drive these trucks off of the largest hill and shoot it down.
As an added
man.
bonus, it is also very useful as a base defense mechanism. You can park this vehicle up, leave it there, and then it will continue the same role of defending against targeted ordnance and ships whilst
Yep.
you're outside the vehicle.
All right, now I got to ask you guys, would you prefer to have a truck like this, or would you prefer to have an NPC that could just sit in the back of your Jeep and stay on the turret? Like, is this good enough, or does it need to go further and there need to be actual NPCs there? And this is just a good stopgap, in your opinion.
The exterior is a mix between utilitarian and minimalistic. We wanted to find a good balance between those.
The MXC is a really nice chassis to work with. We thought about the different variants when we were designing the base chassis, and I think it lends itself really well. It kind of leans into that military idea of they don't want to be making everything from scratch. They want parts to be serviceable, they want them to be interchangeable. We've tried to keep the overall silhouette of the vehicle and its overall size.
It looks good,
close
man.
to the main.
Dude, I think this thing looks fantastic. I like the way this looks better than the other one.
To keep the overall silhouette of the vehicle and its overall size.
It's like a
as
squat
close
pickup
to the
truck.
main chassis as we can, but then when it jumps into action, the turret lifts up on this big platform that is very well supported, very, very strong, and it gives a little bit greater visibility, not only of the sky, but also of the surrounding area. You can see the engineering that's gone into it, and I think it's really successful in conveying what its purpose is.
The interior is based on the teenage engineering design, rounded corner and bold buttons.
Did
he just quote teenage engineering?
It's all of the components. So everything you need to make the vehicle drive.
Dude, they've gotten so much more efficient at packing. I think because now you actually know what's going to be in a vehicle, it looks more efficient. Like before, a ground vehicle would have had maybe half of this stuff, maybe one weapon locker. But now they're like, okay, we have 2 seats. We need 4 weapon slots. You obviously need life support. You need a relay, some components. You're going to have your engineering terminal. There's going to be a place for the buttons and the lights. And like now they have all that stuff categorized and cataloged, and they build these things and they actually look put together. I'm going to love to see the old ships get this work.
Everything you need to make the vehicle function.
My favorite part of interior is those 2 weapon racks next to each other, and just open the door, access to weapon rack, get the gun, and go back.
You've got your fire extinguisher, and then you're straight into the cockpit, straight into driving it around and blowing things up.
I can definitely see these being used a lot within the universe, especially at things like...
Hell yeah, dude. Holy crap, I wonder how many of these are going to sell. I do think that there is the potential a lot of solo players could buy these, but I think people will also be hesitant. You might want to see this in the game first, because in order to have this, you also have to have a vehicle to carry it. So that's another investment.
Style events or the DMR rally, where there's always a threat of incoming ships ruining everyone's fun, or causing everyone's fun. I suppose it depends what side you're on.
There you go.
It's my first ship vehicle that I worked on it from scratch, and really amazing concept from Sam.
If you watch that video I put out recently about the variants and Star Citizen almost reaching 200 ships out, one of the things I said was like they're using this as a way to get artists very quickly onboarded, to teach them how the process of making these ships works, to show them the tools that their custom game engine uses to build these things, just to kind of get them onboarded. And here we have I don't know if he's new, I have not seen him before, but he is saying that this is his first vehicle from beginning to end that he's worked on, and it's a variant of the MTC, whatever it's called. So I think that checks out that they're sticking to that philosophy that these variants are a very good way to train new employees.
And really amazing concept from Sam.
I really have a good time designing it and finding ways of putting everything together, making everything fit and worked within the constraints of the vehicle.
This is the second vehicle in the family that we're showing, and I think you can see that commonality between the 2 existing ones, and it just adds that extra utility, which I think is very useful.
And we're off to the NFC next year for crafting.
That's right. Okay.
For someone that wants to...
They have to. Yeah. They have to. There's one more for crafting coming out. So, I mean, we know crafting is going to be in testing within the next month. It's supposed to be, at least. We will see how long it takes them to get the vehicle with it.
Take those extra few steps just to ensure that something's looking out for them, that something's protecting them.
So what happens to the person who gets 30 of these and lines the top of their 890 jump with them?
That person feels really safe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, put this on a Kraken. Just cover a Kraken with all these. You know what you'll do with it. So that is the new truck. And to be quite honest, folks, I'm a fan. Let's see what the Q&A has to say about it, if there's anything that we might have missed. First ground vehicle with the PDT, what inspired the team to create this type of vehicle? They literally said it in that video, right? That people get messed up on them when they're on their own. But like, I don't know. I think a lot of these ground locations should have their own defenses. It shouldn't come down to people to defend themselves at all places. Definitely at some, you know, the unmarked locations and stuff. But if you're going down to like Rayari Outpost, it should probably have its own turrets. They say the MDC was envisioned to be a support vehicle for players wishing to help defend locations, as well as basic automatic defenses for solo players traversing battlefields. While we see the MDC as being ideal for helping defend a location, its restrictions on engagement and weapon range still leave space for the heavier anti-air vehicles, such as the Ballista and Centurion. They're just like, oh yeah, the Cyclone though. That's in there somewhere. Sure, you guys figure that out. All right, so the ballistic Gatling PDT is a new type. How does it compare to existing point defense systems? They say that it performs very similar to the laser version once the respective advantages and drawbacks of ballistic guns are considered. For example, their ability to penetrate shields is balanced by their limited ammunition capacity. Limited. Does the MDC's PDT, LOZ, LOL, IYZ, BFF target on foot characters and ground vehicles, or only aerial threats? They say only torpedoes, missiles, and small ships. Small ships. That's an interesting qualifier, because in the video, I think they showed a C2 getting shot at. Maybe I'm wrong. The C2 dropped a bomb, but yeah, okay, it must have been another vehicle that they saw shooting at. So small vehicles is important to note. Not that, like, I mean, you wouldn't, I don't think anybody expects something like this to take out a Perseus, but it is. Deterrents aren't always about the damage you're doing, right? It's about the kind of stress you're putting something under. Just hearing some gunshots against your hull might be enough to deter you from doing something. But yeah, I mean, small ships is not necessarily a bad thing. It is worth it to say, like, if you have multiple of these around an outpost and a ship that's larger does come in, are they not going to shoot at it? Could you not overwhelm a Constellation's shields with these? I don't know. That'll have to be tested in game. They say that these guns are interchangeable. Currently, they have size 1 laser, ballistic, and missile PDTs, with all options now available for purchase via in-game shops. That's important. Does the PDT remain active when the player leaves the driver's seat, or must the player remain seated? As long as the vehicle is powered and has sufficient energy allocated to the weapon energy pool, the PDT will remain operational. There's some engineering for you folks. EMP can shut this down. Hacking can probably shut this down. And most importantly, if you just run out of power, if you're on battery energy, it can shut down. The MDC has a cut down interior based heavily on the MTC. While the space previously used for armor and mission crates is now occupied by the PDT mount, it still features a weapon rack and personal storage for the crew's essential gear. All right, so that's the vehicle. I say we get into the game and see how it works at some point. I don't know if we'll have time today, but it's an interesting one. I like it. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff coming into Star Citizen at this very moment. Like I said, we're in the middle of this transition from tech demo to game, and the way that content is rolling out is clearly meant to emphasize that. Hope you enjoyed this info, folks.